call Jonathan and Kristen up to the stage. Oh, look, they're coming on down. It's going to be very exciting. Newlyweds in the house tonight. So Jonathan and Kristen recently got married in the lovely fall of 2012, November 11th to be exact, at our Wedding Network member venue, Oregon Golf Club. They dined with about 120 of their closest friends and enjoyed the colors dark purple, oranges, and greens. Welcome to the stage, Jonathan and Kristen. Choose any chair you like. Next, we'd like to call up Laura and Jason. There they are in the back. Laura and Jason just got married this 2013, January 12th. They got married at the Tumwater Room at Clackamas County Historical Society and partied with 100 of their closest friends and family and had a black and white and some damask print. Please give it up for Laura and Jason. The next couple to talk with us tonight are Kanani and Jesse. Where are they at? There they are. These crazy kids got married in the heat of August on the 24th last year. Another couple from the Oregon Golf Club. They celebrated with about 230 of their nearest and dearest. And ooh, I like your colors. They had navy, peach, pinks, coral, and silver. Please give, and gray. Let's give a round of applause to Kanani and Jesse. So our last couple to join the stage are Stephanie and Roy. Look at these two crazy kids. They got married as well in August on the 26th. They celebrated at Vista Hills Vineyard out in wine country with 75 of their nearest and dearest and really had a vintage style to their wedding. Let's give a round of applause for Stephanie and Roy. Okay, so the way tonight's gonna work is we have a few questions that we have predetermined that have been submitted by our members at the last meeting, some things we've taken in online, but I promise to save a few minutes for any lingering questions after we've kind of gone through things. But if you do have a pressing, urgent need where you really want some clarification, feel free to throw your hand up and I'll call on you, we'll do it classroom style. Deal? Okay. Okay. So the first question I'm going to ask, I'm going to start off just assigning questions. Work for everyone? Okay. So Jonathan and Kristen, since you're the first I called up, when you started planning, did you have a specific budget in mind? That was good teamwork.
I did.
The groom usually does.
We started out thinking we were going to go to Vegas and just do something small. Then as we announced everything to the family, we decided, okay, it would be nice to have everybody here and do it together. And then things changed. So I'm going to give
So we tried to keep our budget, we tried to keep things really simple, and you find as you start doing your guest list that it grows and grows and grows. So I would say that once we decided that we were staying here, we had a particular budget in mind. Did we stick to it? Sort of. As close as we could. I think we did pretty well.
All right. Laura and Jason, same question, did you have a budget that you, when you started in mind, and how did that change as you went through your planning process?
I would say yes and no. We actually were engaged for 2.5 years before our wedding date, and so we actually got married on our 8th anniversary, so we'd been together for quite a while. We lived together and have a house together, so we were able to start putting money set aside just specifically for the wedding fund. So we were able to add to that through the years and kind of adjust the budget accordingly as things came into play. Like once we got the DJ, we could, that was out of the way, so the rest of the budget was there for, all the other things. But I think we did stay with it pretty much. He has no idea what went on. He was actually just here for the food. So don't expect any answers from him.
Nice.
But yeah, we pretty much stayed within it, but it was kind of one of those things, we took things as they came.
Okay. Kanani?
Kind of what she said. No, it's my turn.
I am so excited you said that.
I'm gonna go rogue on you.
Do it.
So it was what she said, but instead of to avoid this sticker shock, we kind of had just socked money away each month, not really having a specific budget, but just so we didn't have the sticker shock when we actually started having to pay things. So we didn't really like try to get a specific amount for whether it be a caterer or a venue or anything. It was just trying to get stuff put aside whenever it was convenient for us over, the better part of pretty much 2 years.
Okay. Kanani? Same question.
Budget, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the question was, when you started planning, did you have a specific budget in mind? And if so, how did that change while you were doing your planning?
Well, Jesse and I were only engaged for about 7.5 months. So we got engaged, set a budget, and started planning right away. So there wasn't really any putting away. So what we had was what we had. We had family on both of our sides help us with our wedding, and it didn't really change, except for I made a few mistakes in my calculations. And I remember the week before the wedding, I go, "Oh, Mom, oh my God, I made a mistake." She goes, "What?" And I said, "I forgot the site fee on the menu, and it was like $2,000." And that was ouch. We got to eat that one. But no, it didn't. What changed was where I allocated the funds to.
Okay.
Set my venue first, which included food. At the Oregon Golf Club, they include food, tables, linens, quite a few things. So then the rest was what we had. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Stephanie, Roy, how did you do? How did your budgeting work for your event?
Ours totally changed. So I had no idea how much weddings cost when we started out. But we just knew that we basically didn't want to spend all of our money for something that was just one day. We wanted to make it amazing and special to us, but we didn't want to go into marriage being in debt or anything like that. But also, my budget wasn't really realistic to what we wanted also. So we picked venue, and photographer was our most important, that we wanted to spend the most money on for, our memories and everything, and then kind of went from there. But I would say ours almost doubled, because it was kind of like, well, with everything, like my dress, I wanted only to spend $1,000. And then it was like, well, and then I saw all the dresses that were under $1,000, and then it just kind of was like, well, I don't want to look back on this and say I cheaped out, and didn't really like my dress, and, I wanted it to be special. So then that kind of happened with almost everything we did, so.
I've heard that. What were your thoughts?
I was going to say it was basically quality is what we went for.
Great.
So it basically changed because when we looked it up, we went off an average on what people spend for weddings and photographers and sites and stuff like that. And what we found is when we actually went to see sites and went to look at photographers, that you're going to pay for an average.
Okay.
So we paid a little bit more to get a little bit better, is where we went.
So for you guys, it sounds like your budget changed the most when you were planning, and it sounds like kind of maybe the rest of you maybe kind of had sort of an idea of where you were going to land. So what was, out of the vendors that you booked for you guys, what was the most surprising kind of part of the wedding that was much higher than you anticipated?
Well, the first thing we picked was venue, and we knew we wanted to get married at a vineyard. And so we found this place, and we were pretty much sold the first place we saw. And then when I found out how much it was, I was just like, whoa, that was like half of my budget. And so I was just like, okay, never mind. Well, then I started calling a bunch of other places, and I was just like, that's actually pretty reasonable. And so unless we want to get married in our backyard, I mean, that's what it's what people spend for weddings. So we didn't really have any idea. I just kind of knew about what we wanted to stay at, but we had about a year engagement, so we paid for our wedding ourselves, and we just kind of every month would just put away like, okay, this month we'll save for the caterer, this month we'll save for, whatever vendor it was. So.
Dress.
What'd you say?
Dress.
True. I feel like that dress was a little sticker shock for you.
No.
She probably looked beautiful though, right?
Oh, gorgeous.
Oh, there, right answer. Right answer. So this is my next question for the group. What resources did you turn to when you first started planning? So you're engaged. Hold on. First of all, thank you, gentlemen, for proposing to these ladies so all of us have a job.
Thank them. Thank them.
So where's the first where did you start your planning?
I think ours was, of course, like the internet. We Googled everything or
Okay.
whatever. So, but it didn't work for us. It was actually word of mouth worked better for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So word of mouth is where we got our photographer, our venue,
So a lot of people
everything.
who had already
yeah.
gotten married, that
Yeah.
seemed to be the best sources for us. Is, you know, when I was looking at a bunch of different things, it was just like, well, how do I know this is better than this or what? So basically just a lot of people who had gotten married or knew someone that got married, that was really like being able to talk to them, ask them questions about what they liked, what they didn't like. And so I really felt like talking to brides and grooms that had, you know, used those vendors. And actually our band, I really liked, they had sent us a list of people who had used them and said, these are people who agree to be references for us, so you can call them and ask them questions and stuff. So that was,
Awesome.
I really like that.
We never called anybody, but we took their word for it.
But still, it was nice to have.
So to Jesse and Kanani, where did you start your planning? What resources did you use?
Yeah, Jesse, where did you start the planning? Just kidding. No, he helped a lot when I asked, but
When I asked, I love it.
same thing. I Googled, you immediately go to the internet and you think, oh, I'm gonna find all these great things, and there's 1,000 great things. And, I already knew that I wanted to get married at a golf club, and at the Oregon Golf Club, they provide a lot of things for you already. Food, like I said, linens, tables, all that stuff. So it kind of knocked a few things off our list, which was great. And then the other things that were big to us, photographer, dress, we went to our friends and friends of friends and people who we knew that got married, and just kind of put our feelers out. What did you think? What did you think? What did you think? And then I already had in mind what I wanted. So it was like when they'd give their 2 cents, oh, nope, don't want that. Okay, not going to go in this direction. And if I knew I wanted, someone in this price range for a photographer, and she'd travel this far and XYZ. So it was pretty easy once you just make those decisions. Like I had it in my head,
Okay.
but friends and family, pretty much.
And then the same question to the two of you, what resources did you use? So if you Googled things, did you just type in wedding photographer? Is that for you guys too? Okay.
So I started out in, I think, January 2011, going to the wedding expo at the Expo Center.
What did you think of that?
It was a little overwhelming.
I'm going to let you know right now, we all are professionals, overwhelming to us too.
Yeah.
Same boat.
So it's beneficial in the fact that I was able to get all the handouts and then not look at them for another year. After I went to it in January 2012 and got all the same handouts. But it was beneficial in, finding the names of the different places that are out there that you kept hearing and seeing in like the Bravo, the book, and on the website, and just seeing that places are, reputable and people use them and they've been around. That was nice, although we didn't really use any of them. But we did win our DJ there, so I encourage people to go put your name in a hat, because you might get something, but otherwise you'll just get 1,000 emails.
But free DJ worth 1,000 emails.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So getting all the information there and the different places that I could look at, and then I did go online and use like the Bravo wedding page or whatever, but then I would use Google and just try to find like Portland area based, bartenders and photographers and things like that. But I also had a wedding coordinator at the very end, so she helped me find, I used a photographer that she recommended, and that might have been it, but a lot of it was word of mouth. We used a pastor from his church, and we used a caterer that his mom knows who was really reasonable. We did like our own photo booth, so it was kind of a lot of, people and get recommendations from other people who have been through it. So
Great. What about you two crazy kids?
We got a lot of advice from someone in the industry, so.
I bet it was someone like really overbearing but super hilarious.
Little bit. So we were fortunate enough to have my dad in the industry, who's in this room in the back, shaking his head, but he's here. So we got a lot of really great referrals for a lot of different vendors, and the bridal shows too, which were sort of sensory overload, but we went.
For pricing.
Yeah, for pricing, it's really helpful. One of the other things too is to go to open houses that the venues were holding, because originally when we were planning, we were thinking that we were just going to rent a venue and do, all the event rentals, and the price of that actually added up to be more than the all-inclusive golf club route. So that was a huge money savings. At first we were, when we were looking at the prices, we were like, oh my God, this is insane. But then when you compare the prices from itemizing to everything that's all-inclusive, it's such a significant difference. So, but definitely referrals, word of mouth. We looked some on the internet for some things, but we ended up going back to the referral, so.
Did any of you guys use Facebook to research your vendors?
Yeah.
Yeah? No. Raise your hands, yes. 1, 2. Some of you guys, no. Okay. When you were searching for vendors, so you're looking for photographers, what made those vendors stand out when you were looking about them before you met them? So, because you always have to do like your, recon spy activity. But what about any category of vendors, but what made them stand out when you would look for them? I'll start down there.
So I'd say for us, when we started looking, be it for photographers or flowers or cake, we were looking at online photo galleries, so that's really important. And a lot of the...
When you say online photo galleries, do you mean that vendor's website, or do you mean more like Facebook?
Both.
Blogs?
Some vendors have both. All the vendors that we use have both. So we would look at the photo galleries for the venue. We were looking at photos of other people that had gotten married there, because ours was sort of a unique situation, because I think a lot of the people that get married at our venue are there for an outdoor wedding, and we had an indoor wedding. So looking at pictures of how other people have staged their wedding is really important, but the photo galleries were huge because the vendors that we used were based in Salem and we're in Portland. So not, in fact, the gal who did our cake, we didn't do a tasting, we did everything sight unseen.
That's the most fun part of the whole planning.
I know.
Tasting cake.
We did cake tasting here in town, and we ended up going with the referral because her pricing was better, and her cake was amazing. So we weren't disappointed at all. But the photo galleries are huge, and also websites like Wedding Wire or The Knot or any place where you can look at reviews is huge too, because people do read those a lot.
Yeah. So did you two read reviews, or when you were looking at people, what made vendors stand out to you?
I think I did on some things, but not on others. So I know for certain ones, for venue, I was looking for certain characteristics that I wanted, but when it came to photographer, I kind of just went with my gut and kind of narrowed down the field, price versus how professional they looked, how long they'd been in the business, and then chose to meet with a couple from there. And then once I met with people, it was mostly who I felt would do a good job, but that I had a connection with. So I'd met with a couple people that, they were fine, they were professional, and they would have been great, but then I met with somebody else, and it's we hit it off instantly. I felt that they would be great to work with, good sense of humor, they would understand our style, and be able to, work with us easily. So there's a lot of factors.
Okay. So for you two, you had a venue that's primarily all-inclusive, kind of did a little bit of everything. So what was the selling point for you when you picked out the vendors that weren't included?
Well, a lot of the vendors we chose were word of mouth, and although they were, I also Googled them immediately. I mean, yes, you say they're good, but what else? What do other people say about them? So I did research a lot of their reviews online, would go to their websites, like my photographer did a friend's wedding the summer prior, and my mother loved her. She was like, "You're not doing your cousin. She's not photographing you." I was like, "What? She's my cousin. She's gonna give me a good deal." No. She said no. So I got onto the website, checked out her pictures, and it was beautiful. And then I met her, and I was like, "Oh, this is fate." So it was a combination of word of mouth, checking out what they had available online. I mean, their own website. It was huge. Was a huge decision maker for me. I mean, like professionalism. What did she have available? Pricing. Was it all there? I have to hunt things down and send 25 emails to her back and forth, and then actually taking the time to meet someone. You have this connection. You're like, "Oh, this is totally it." Nicole from Oregon Golf Club recommended me to Maureen for to be our officiant and to marry us, and that was great. She was actually the only officiant we met with, and it was perfect from the start. I mean, you get recommendations. I don't even know if I Googled you or not, but I think I did afterwards, and I was like, okay, she's really good. Like, she's good, and then like other people said she was good. So it was just kind of what, Yelp for wedding, I guess would be Wedding Wire, but yeah, we kind of just did all that stuff. So.
Okay. So, so I'll ask this question to the two of you. Did you take word of mouth referrals more from friends or vendors that you would plan with? Say you booked a space, and then did they provide you lists that you're like, "Oh, these are so helpful," or did you find it not that way at all?
I would say probably both. I think that most of what we went through was people that we knew. One of my coworkers happened to do flowers. One of my other coworkers, her mom was a caterer, and so it kind of just worked out. But a lot of it just, was kind of researching like every avenue that we could to find vendors, and then just kind of finding out basically price and quality, and kind of deciding, who was comparable price, but also great quality too. So it's helpful to just get any avenue of resource you can.
So so it sounds like everyone kind of researched online, definitely took into account the opinions of friends and family, and then met with that person to see, are we a good fit? Kind of felt it out. Fair kind of assumption. So when you were looking at the websites and the Facebooks, did you take note of any sort of maybe winning a best of award, or there's a certification on their page, maybe they're a Wedding Wire winner? Did any of you notice that stuff as you look through their items?
I did a little bit. I mean, I didn't go off that so much. More for me, it was, the food. Did I like it? Or, I don't really care so much if, it was for us, so I don't really care if it won the best and we didn't really care for it. But there was like our band. I had seen them at a work event, and I thought they were amazing, and I was just like, well, I don't know if they would be that great for a wedding. But then when I looked at their website, it said voted like Wedding Wire Best Portland Wedding Band, and I was like, okay, well.
Sold.
Yeah, so I definitely think it wouldn't make or break it if they did or didn't have an award, but I think if you're interested in them, seeing that, it kind of, makes it a little bit better, so.
Did any of the rest of you look for any of that kind of certification as you were looking through, or notice it?
I noticed it definitely, but
Did you care?
Not to take away from it, because it's
Oh,
great.
no.
But yeah,
Sorry,
but
I just asked questions.
It wasn't like, oh, they don't have a certificate, I'm not hiring them. It didn't make or break anything. I think it was an extra kind of kudos, like great,
Yeah.
but no, it didn't determine.
So we'll start with the two of you. What was the part that you loved the most about your wedding? If you had to pick kind of like either one moment or like one piece that you were like, that was the business.
Well, I know his answer will be that it was over, but
Look at the smile. Already true.
I would say that since we tried to put a lot of our personality into it, we did a few things that like I hadn't seen at other weddings. So it was seeing like our guests' reactions when we pulled those things out, because then they looked at it and they just went, yeah, we expect that from them. So it was kind of those sorts of things.
So,
She had a lot of personal touches. And if I don't repeat this as many times as possible to everybody we talk to, I will hear it for the rest of my life. So she had a lot of personal touch put into everything, from just various decorations, pictures, and she put a lot of hard work herself into a lot of the planning of it just when she was doing the research over the past 2.5 years. So it was definitely, that was probably the biggest thing, because I didn't see all that effort necessarily, or I saw it from the male perspective. It was like, but really coming together, like just seeing it all for the first time for me.
so did you make a lot of things for your wedding?
I did all of the centerpieces, and I had made decorations of various sorts. I did a candy buffet. I made signs for different things. I did, I think, pretty much all of the decorations, right, Cindy? There really wasn't anything at the venue that wasn't done by me, except like we rented the tablecloths and the
You're hired.
silverware.
So you made all your centerpieces. I'm sorry, I'm still picturing making a lot of centerpieces. Was that due towards you wanted to make it more personal, or was that a budget consideration?
Both.
Yeah?
I just felt that I had enough time to be able to put that stuff together, and that way it would be something that I liked for sure, and was able to do whatever I wanted, basically.
Nice. So for the two of you, what was the part that you loved most about your wedding? And don't say your dad, because we all know it's a lie. What? Oh, sorry.
For me, I was just looking for like it to look nice and simple and elegant and whatever she wanted to do. And I was just happy for somebody to just tell me where to be.
Oh, I don't know if I could pick just one thing. I don't know, everything really did come together. We didn't have a coordinator at all until the day of. And so I think for us, it was really rewarding when everything sort of came together, and on the day it was like, well, whatever happens, happens. And I think there were a lot of things that maybe, happened that we never knew about and may never know about, and that's okay.
There were, and they were fun.
But I think for us, the moment where we just sort of were able to breathe was when we first saw each other, when we did like the first look, and that was really important, and just to see how all the hard work that we had done came together, and John was really involved from start to finish, which, he went to the bridal shows and reluctantly went to the bridal shows, but he was there, and he helped, and I think that, I don't know if there was any one moment, but just seeing everything come together on the day seamlessly was awesome. Yeah.
So for you two, if I can have you pass the mic down, what was your favorite part of kind of the wedding experience? The day, like just in general.
I wasn't very involved in the wedding, but seeing all her hard work pay off and everyone have fun was definitely the moment for me.
Okay.
Thank you. He wasn't involved. He picked his own tux, though.
Nice
which
job.
looked really good. Let's see. It was a big wedding. We had 230 people after a lot of no's, too. So we didn't know what that was going to be like. I don't think I've ever been to a wedding that big. And so it was nice to not be as overwhelmed as I guess or at least I thought I would be. The whole atmosphere of the day was amazing. I wish I could feel that way every single day of my life. I loved it all.
Did you have a coordinator for your wedding?
No.
That's impressive with 230 people. So that's a lot of people to corral.
In 7.5 months. I probably sent like 700 emails. I'm surprised my bridesmaids are still my friends. And not because I was mean to them. I was like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? But the day came together. I have a great family and husband and friends. They were awesome. And it was the most flawless day. That walking down the aisle was everything I imagined it would be. And yeah, overall, it was just, I can't pick one thing.
Okay.
It was perfect,
So for you two,
luckily.
much smaller, but what was your favorite part of the wedding?
So we had 75 people, and we wanted to keep it small because we just wanted it to be the day to be about us enjoying it with our family and friends and getting to spend it with almost pretty much everybody, getting to see everyone there. So that was the most important thing to us, was just to get to like enjoy it with our family and friends that we love.
75 was still too much. I think I only talked to
Yeah,
40.
we still didn't even get to talk to everybody. But
Would you have been fine, like just going to Justice of the Peace, hitting
Well,
McDonald's?
we were.
Wear a fancy
when we were
outfit.
getting like
Saying yes.
going through everything, we were kind of debating like, should we just go to Hawaii or should we get married here? But we wanted to, spend it with everybody.
Yeah,
So.
because we could have definitely had 200 people there, but from talking to friends and all that, it's just like when you start going through the night and talking to people, everybody gets your attention for like 5 minutes. And it's just like that 5 minutes turns into 3 hours and you realize you only talked to 20 people.
So that wasn't the right fit for you two.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, now who do I have to talk to next? Who do I have to talk to next? So that's why we kept ours like simple. So talk to the people we love, the people that were close to us. So, I mean, if you weren't, if we didn't talk to you within the last 3 months, you weren't invited type deal.
Well, it's hard.
Oh, okay. 2 months.
I'm on the same lines
Yeah,
as you.
so it was just,
I get you.
we wanted it to be about us and like family and everybody close together.
So, what regrets did you have, or what would be the piece that you change? Like a regret, and by regret I mean like this probably wasn't terrible, but I would have done this different.
I think we would have got a coordinator.
No, we did have a coordinator.
Oh, we never mind.
This is how involved he was.
I was pretty involved.
That's okay. He's holding
Well,
the mic. It's very
What
gentlemanly.
we would have done differently is we got married outside in Oregon, and I was really debating. Our venue didn't provide tents or anything, and so they said, oh, we recommend going through this place or right down the street and everything. Well, I called them, and I mean, basically, if you book them, you have to pay the whole amount, or you could back out within 3 days and you wouldn't have to pay anything. So it was like 80 degrees for 2 weeks, 0% chance rain.
0%.
And it rained. It rained.
So
and
did-
so
What
as
what
every-
happened?
It's like, well, we did a first look before our ceremony, and so it was really nice and sunny, and then all of a sudden the clouds start coming in, it's looking gray, and everybody's like, does that look like rain out there?
Apparently that's good luck too.
And
for rain ceremony.
then, yeah, so then we're getting ready for our ceremony, and everybody's like, it's looking pretty windy out there, and I have like this birdcage veil on. I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. I had no idea. And I start walking out there, and my veil's like sticking up. I just halfway through the ceremony wanted to like throw it, but I mean, it's still like, it was the perfect day. Nothing ruined our day, but I still would have at least had, certain things available that I thought I still planned way ahead of time, but I would have.
What are the things you would have had made sure were available?
Well, I think I still would have paid for the rentals to use the covers, and I would have been much happier if I lost that money if I didn't need it than to because we had a band outside and it was rainy, so they had to move inside, and so it was kind of, I mean, it still was great. We weren't really affected too much by it because we just would change, like do cake cutting while the band moved inside and stuff like that, but it still made it a lot more difficult. So all those things that you think you still plan ahead of time, but
It's the joy of weddings. That's what we call it.
it never goes the way you expect it will. So
What would you two do differently, or what regrets do you have about the day?
There's a lot that came into that day. So I would, if we had had it in our budget, probably would have had a wedding planner to really help facilitate, because the short amount of time we had and the amount of decisions that are made in being engaged, especially with having a big wedding. We didn't, and it was fine, but it really would have been helpful. And to help facilitate just a lot of that. And
So-
I think the one thing,
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but my question is, do you think Did the idea of a coordinator come up very early on in your thoughts about what you would need for your wedding day and you just said, no, I don't need that? Or do you feel like that was something you just kind of figured out when you were kind of close to the end?
It was brought up in the beginning. My mom said, "You need a wedding coordinator," and I said, "I don't want to spend that kind of money." She said, "You need it," and I said, "No, I'll be fine." And I was, but then there were some days where I'm like, I really wish I would have just had a little extra help, and not that I didn't have the right help. I mean, I didn't have help. I just didn't have someone. Most of my friends aren't married. The few that are were not in my wedding, and I didn't really have necessarily experts. I mean, we could only do so much. So with the amount of time we had. But the biggest thing I guess I would have changed, and it's really not that big, but I probably wouldn't have spent as much on my wedding invitations.
Interesting.
They got really out of control. Really out of control.
It's just that sweet way you were like, and then it just all went awry. There was like paper and ribbons, like.
Then they were like $20 a piece, I swear. They were supposed to be $5. I don't know what happened. Don't custom make wedding invitations unless you're willing to pay a big chunk of your budget. When people just throw them away, and then at the end, like, I was so stressed out about how much I had spent on these wedding invitations, and they were gorgeous. Oh my gosh, and the lady that I did it through was amazing. But I think in the end, I realized I can't buy extras. And none of my bridesmaids or my groomsmen got any wedding invitations because I wouldn't buy an extra 50 or however many the increments were. And then I had like 1 or 2 for Jesse and I. That's it. Like, my family didn't get any of them, just friends, because there were so many people.
Did you decide on your invitations pretty early on when you were like looking for your overall day? Mm-hmm. Would you say that's kind of like venue, dress, ring? Isn't that how it goes? Kate Venables? He's not listening to me. Isn't it venue, dress, ring? Isn't that what you always say? Venue, dress, ring. Do you think it was like a 4 or 5-ish decision, or?
Oh, maybe. I mean, it really wasn't the top. I'm not that type of person that's like, I have a girlfriend getting married this summer that's all about invitations. And me, I don't know why. I want that custom envelope, but I want that custom. Don't do it. Don't do it. Everything else was perfect and stayed in budget.
Okay, so for the two of you, what would you have changed, or what regrets do you have? He is taking the mic.
So my biggest regret in all of it is, for such a wonderfully planned event, outside of pictures, it's something we'll only get to share one time together.
Okay. Your face is priceless right now, just so you know.
I'll refrain. I would say the one thing that I would change is that I wouldn't have let a year and a half go by of my engagement without starting on things, because I did do so much of it. I did my own invitations on some that I had bought and printed myself, and then some I did from Vistaprint, like the save the dates I was able to do. But like, I saved my photographer for the last 2 months, the cake for the last month. We got our, the guy who married us within the last 2 weeks.
Officiant.
Thank you. We got the license the week of. It was kind of one of those, oh yeah, we probably need one of those sort of things. So.
I just want to make sure that I heard correctly. You waited to book your photographer until 2 months before?
Approximately.
And was that just because you hadn't found the right one, or?
More so, it was just because I was doing everything by myself. So I had to prioritize. Like, we got the venue about a year in advance. That's about when I got my dress. We already had the ring. But then, invitations do have to go out
right
in a timely manner. So I had gotten that, and they did kind of go out at the last, minute, right about when they're supposed to go out. But I was like printing them and mailing them, right about at the minimum return time. But yeah, I saved quite a bit of stuff till the very end.
Okay.
I think we got his tux. We got him fitted about a week and a half beforehand.
Nice. I like it. So you would have changed a lot of things or a few things?
I would have just tried to do things a little bit sooner,
Sure.
knowing that I wouldn't have to do all of these things at the very end in the last couple months. Since we got married in January, you've got Christmas and Thanksgiving there, where a lot of people are busy and you have family obligations and stuff to do.
Family's really helpful in wedding planning. And by helpful, I mean they give a lot of helpful advice. So you had a lot of helpful advice from your family. But what would you have changed, looking back at the day? What are things you would do different?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say just help that day directing people where to go, where to be for pictures. I mean, there's only 2 of us, and she doesn't want everybody to see her in their dress before it's time, and that would have been more helpful, and getting an earlier start.
So we got married at the Oregon Golf Club, and because our wedding was an indoor wedding, because we got married in November, we had both the wedding and the reception in the pavilion. And our photographer, because because it was a little muddy that day, we were sort of limited to where we could trek to do our pictures. So we were, and it was actually the first time the photographer had even been to that venue. So what was happening is we were running so far behind that people were showing up and they weren't sure where to go. So there was a significant chunk of people, both friends and family, that saw us before the wedding, which was really disappointing. So I was literally like trying to run in this giant parachute of a dress to get out of the way because people were starting to show up. And our coordinator, she was great, but I felt like she was sort of trying to run back and forth between the pavilion and the clubhouse. So people didn't know where to go. So they were just sort of standing there like, oh, where do we go? So maybe we needed more signage. I don't know, somebody to direct traffic. So that was the one thing that was rough for us. The other thing I would say that we would change is we did a buffet-style dinner, and at the advice of my lovely mother, insisted on not doing a seating chart. So what ended up happening is that there were people that were sitting together that should never sit together ever, which was our fear from day one. And my mom, God bless her, was like, oh, just let people figure it out. So what ended up happening was, by the time the reception had started, my lovely parents were out of a seat. So our coordinator had to scramble to shuffle seats so that my parents could join everybody for the meal. So I hugged my mom and told her I loved her, but the seating chart, when it's my sister's turn, is definitely the way to go. So I would say those are the 2 things that I would have changed about the day.
Okay. Just curiosity, who assigned seats at their wedding? Anyone?
I did just for family.
Okay.
A few tables right around us, but then everything else was open.
So-
I just made little name cards for them.
That's really cute. So everyone else opened seating, or did you assign tables? Yeah?
I wanted to, but he wanted to make it so I was gonna do, like his friends, my friends, or and then my family, his family, or whatever, so everybody would feel comfortable talking to each other. He really wanted to have different people at different tables so people would get to know each other, and I was like, that is the worst idea. My mom's family friends are not coming all this way to meet your old college buddy, so
You never know. You never know.
It was really stressful and it was a big fight, so we just ended up saying, you know what, we're not gonna do a seating chart. People will sit where they want to sit. So
And it worked out.
yeah, it worked out.
So you won.
I didn't want that
Point
whole,
for the groom.
that whole,
No, he wanted to sit people with
Oh,
other
okay.
people.
Yeah,
so
so I
that
wanted
our
it to be-
compromise was just
But it
to
still worked
people,
out. I wanted
will
people
sit
to-
where they want to sit. If they meet new people and they want to sit together,
I'm a
they
new-
can, and if
new
they
person
don't,
type of guy. I will sit with a random person just to meet them.
I love that.
That's just me. So I can sit with anybody and start a conversation. And I was assuming that would work with other people.
You were going to give that to you're going to be like, this is the gift I will give you as my guest. Be with strangers.
Be with strangers, and so that was what I was.
so it worked out well for us not to have a seating chart.
Okay, so I have just another question, and then we'll see if there's questions out on the floor. So the question I have is, out of all of the wedding professionals, which profession do you think is the easiest and why? You don't have to go first if you don't want to.
I do not have one for the easiest. I have one for the hardest, but I do
What's
not
the
know.
hardest?
I think a coordinator is
Okay.
the hardest. I actually.
We have some coordinators in the crowd, I hear.
Yeah, like you were saying, I did not want to pay for a coordinator at first. I really didn't think it was necessary. I thought, not that I know anything about coordinating, but I just thought, well, I can do, this and that. And then one of my coworkers, she helped with her daughter's wedding, and she was like, let me help you. You don't want people to be asking you questions on your day of, and you also don't want them to be bombarding like your mom and, close family members who should be enjoying your day. So she took over everything, and even no matter how organized I tried to be, there's still stuff that's going to come up, that things are going to happen and it's not going to go the way you have it planned, and you don't want people coming to you asking you, well, what do I do, and you fielding things. And so that was amazing having her, and even though I would kind of try and tell her the way I wanted things, she would just kind of answer questions to all the vendors if she didn't know. And so, and you have to, think quick and be a problem solver. So I think that all coordinators are amazing. It was stressful.
Good job out there.
Trying to.
The easiest was the venue, by the way, because I don't remember them doing much. They just. Yeah, because
Good to know.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, you just rent the spot and you show up, and then our caterer is the one that put all the chairs out, and cleaned up, and did all that. So I'd say just venue.
Good to know. What do you think the hardest profession is?
Well, the hardest, I do have an easiest.
What do you got?
The people at Mr. Formal, it's like the easiest job.
And why do you say it's the easiest job?
Because they don't help you at all, the people with the tux. Oh my God, I could have had that job as a second job probably. No, I'm just kidding. They're very friendly there, but the tux, unless you were getting your own suit custom made, I would say that was the easiest thing for us, was picking his tux, and the quickest. The hardest, I would say, would be catering. I have the hardest. It's hard enough cooking a meal for two, let alone 230. And my in-laws are caterers too, so I hear all the time, it's a fun job, but it's a really, really hard job. You have to deal with not only the bride and groom, but every guest and their opinion, because they can also write reviews in addition to the bride and groom, and then the mother of the bride, and et cetera, et cetera. So caterers, I think, are the hardest.
Okay. What about you two? What do you think is the easiest and what's the hardest out of kind of wedding professionals?
I would say the easiest would be for the cake or the flowers, because that's something you can go do beforehand, have it completely set what you want it to be.
Okay.
And then, they bring it there and it gets set up and then they go away. It's not something like where the caterer and they're there the whole time and things can go wrong. It's something that can be done and just delivered.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay, and then hardest caterer? Is that what he said? Or what? Sorry.
Well, he'll probably say the groom.
The groom, yeah, of course, has the very hardest job of the entire day. Hanging out with your buddies, getting on a tux.
Well, dealing with the bride, come on.
That's a joy beyond compare.
I think I would say the coordinator, because depending on how involved you are beforehand, if you're helping to coordinate throughout or if you're more of a day of, you're there, and at least my coordinator was very invested, and I knew that she wanted it to go absolutely perfect for me, that it wasn't something where, if something went wrong, she'd be like, oh, she won't notice. I knew she would fix it, make it happen, and that I wouldn't notice just because it got fixed. And so they're the point person, and they have to know everything that's going on, where everyone should be, what's coming up next, who should be where.
Okay. What about you two?
I think the woman who made our cake had it the easiest at our wedding, just because she was able to make it and drop it off, and then the decoration was done with the flowers.
It was nice because the vendor who did our cake and the vendor who did our flowers were both based out of Salem, and they had worked at other weddings before, so they were familiar with each other's work. They probably bounced referrals off of each other, so they knew the style, and we basically told her this is what our cake's going to look like. It was just a simple plain white cake, and then the florist just, you know, like bedazzled it or whatever with her flowers. And when we came out, it looked like the cutest little cake ever. So I think the cake probably, I'd say, was the easiest. The hardest, I would say, would be the coordinator. I mean, she literally met us the day of the rehearsal. And or the photographer. Yeah, I would say photography is hard, you know, especially if you're dealing with weather elements. You know, we were sort of limited because the weather was so nasty. And because our wedding was completely indoors, you know, from start to finish. So, you know, trying to be unique and different and get the different spots and all the different photos when you're in kind of a small space. But yeah, I would say the coordinator definitely, because there's so many variables there that you're dealing with, and chaos behind the scenes that no one sees. And like I said, there were probably things that fell apart that we didn't even know about, and we would never know. So
Okay.
yeah.
Don Richardson.
How would you rate the father of the bride? Now, did he make it?
So he was actually, my mom instructed the coordinator specifically to not let him have a microphone in his hand, and I think he walked around with it in his pocket for most of the day. So he did a lot of the announcements and whatnot, but he did have one of his guys there doing it for him, and he was awesome. But no, he was great. No complaints. DJ is a hard job too. I'm not biased here, but I'm just saying. It's hard. I mean, really, if you think about it, we would have not known like the flow or the changes of things in the reception if it weren't for the songs that we had picked as our cue. So, I mean, we really wouldn't have known what happens now if it weren't for the changes in the music. So, you know, the flow of that was great. We got lots of compliments. So, yes. So.
He's my new father-in-law, so he was awesome.
All right, guys, you are free to go back.